My name is Mark, 38M, and my wife's name is Lisa, 35F. We've been married for 10 years, and until recently, I thought we had a good, if not perfect, life together. We have no kids of our own, but I stepped into the role of a father when I married her, raising her son from a previous relationship, Jason, 20M, like he was my own. Looking back now, I can see the cracks that were always there. Lisa's selfishness, her constant need for attention, the way she twisted the truth to suit her needs. But love makes you blind, and I ignored those red flags because I wanted to believe in our marriage. Lisa has always been a bit dramatic. Everything was always about her. If she didn't get what she wanted, she'd throw a fit, twist my words, and make me feel like the bad guy. But I chalked it up to stress or just her personality. After all, every relationship has its ups and downs, right? But nothing could have prepared me for the truth, for the ultimate betrayal. Because while I was at work, providing for our family, my wife was sneaking around behind my back, with Jason, my own stepson. And they weren't even smart enough to cover their tracks. That's how I found out. Now that I think back on it, the signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. Lisa had always been flirtatious, sometimes in a way that made me uncomfortable, but she'd brush it off as just joking or lighthearted fun. Over the past year, though, something about her behavior shifted. She became secretive, constantly glued to her phone, giggling at messages she wouldn't share. If I asked who she was texting, she'd roll her eyes and say, "Relax, it's just a friend." Jason, too, started acting differently. He stopped treating me with the same respect he used to. I chalked it up to him being a young adult testing boundaries. He'd get defensive when I asked where he was going, and his attitude toward Lisa became oddly possessive. Sometimes, I'd catch him looking at her in a way that wasn't normal for a son to look at his mother. The first real red flag came when Lisa started dressing differently. More makeup, tighter clothes, nothing wrong with that, except she never did it for me. It was always when Jason was home. If I complimented her, she'd shrug. But if Jason made a comment, she'd giggle like a teenager. Then there was the bathroom. She and Jason started spending a lot of time in there. Lisa taking ridiculously long showers, Jason accidentally walking in on her. It made me uncomfortable, but again, I ignored it. I told myself I was just being paranoid. I was an idiot, because the truth was staring me in the face. And soon I wouldn't be able to ignore it anymore. That day started like any other. I kissed Lisa goodbye before heading to work, completely unaware that my world was about to shatter. It was a slow day at the office, and around noon, my boss let me leave early. I was excited. I thought I'd surprise Lisa with lunch. Maybe we could spend some time together, just the two of us. Our marriage had been feeling distant, and I wanted to fix things. I grabbed her favorite takeout and headed home, smiling to myself. But when I pulled into the driveway, something felt off. Jason's car was there. That wasn't unusual, but he was supposed to be at his college classes. I shrugged it off and stepped inside. The house was eerily quiet.
No te ve.
No movement, just silence. And then I heard it, the sound of hushed voices, coming from the bathroom. I froze. My stomach twisted into knots. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but then I heard Lisa's giggle, the same flirty, teasing giggle she used on me when we first started dating. And Jason's voice, low and urgent. I took a step closer, my heartbeat hammering in my ears. The door was slightly open, and what I saw made my breath catch. Lisa was in there with Jason, and they weren't just talking. She was standing in front of the mirror, adjusting her dress, her face flushed, her hair slightly messy. Jason was standing way too close, his hands brushing against her waist. For a second, I was paralyzed. My brain refused to believe what my eyes were seeing. But then Lisa spoke, her voice playful. "You need to be quieter next time. What if Mark comes home early?" I felt like the ground had been ripped from beneath me. They hadn't even noticed me yet. My hands clenched into fists, the takeout bag slipping from my grasp, crashing onto the floor. That sound, that tiny, insignificant sound, changed everything. Because Lisa turned, her eyes meeting mine. And in that moment, I saw it. Pure panic. The second Lisa saw me, She jumped back like I'd caught her with a gun in her hands. Jason froze, his face draining of color. For a few seconds, none of us spoke. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Then, Lisa did what she always did, she lied. "Mark, you're home early. It's not what it looks like," she blurted, stepping toward me like she could somehow fix this. I felt numb. My body was rooted in place, but my mind was racing. Not what it looks like. I forced myself to speak, my voice calm in a way that even surprised me. "Then tell me, Lisa, what exactly does this look like?" She opened her mouth, then closed it again, her eyes darting to Jason as if searching for an escape. He stood there, silent, like a guilty child caught red-handed. "I was just helping Jason with something," Lisa said, forcing a laugh. "You're overreacting." I looked at Jason. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "What were you helping him with, Lisa?" My voice was sharper now. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks a hell of a lot like you were." "Stop it!" she snapped, her whole demeanor changing in an instant. "You always assume the worst about me. This is why I hate talking to you. You're always accusing me of something."
Ist daher, stumped?
She was really trying to flip this on me? Jason finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Mark, it's not. Shut up." My voice came out harsher than I intended, but I didn't care. My stepson, the kid I raised, the boy I put through school, the person I thought of as my own son, was sleeping with my wife. Lisa was still talking, still spinning her pathetic lies. "You're acting crazy. You're just jealous because Jason and I are close. Maybe if you paid more attention to me, I wouldn't have to." She stopped, realizing too late what she had just admitted. A sick, twisted confession hidden inside her insult. That was it. Something inside me snapped. I took a step back, as if putting physical distance between us would somehow make this nightmare less real. Lisa's face twisted in frustration. "You're being ridiculous, Mark. Nothing happened." I let out a hollow laugh. "Nothing happened?" I repeated, my voice dripping with disbelief. "Then why are you panicking? Why do you look like a deer caught in headlights? And what the hell did you just mean by, maybe if I paid more attention to you?" Lisa's expression shifted again, this time to fake outrage. She crossed her arms and scoffed. "You're twisting my words. I was just saying that you've been distant lately, always at work, never making time for me. Is it really so crazy that I want to feel wanted?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're blaming me?" My voice rose, my hands shaking. "I work to support this family, Lisa. I've given you everything. And you repay me by... I couldn't even finish the sentence. It felt disgusting just saying it out loud. Lisa rolled her eyes. "You're acting like I slept with half the neighborhood," she muttered under her breath.
Ist daher, stumped?
Jason, meanwhile, just stood there, head down, silent, not even trying to defend himself. That silence told me everything. I turned to him, my jaw tight. "How long?" Jason's head snapped up. What? How long have you two been sneaking around behind my back?" My voice was eerily calm, but inside, I felt like a volcano on the verge of erupting. Lisa was the one who answered with another lie. "There's nothing going on. You're just being paranoid." I exhaled sharply, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Fine. Let's check your phone." Then, that's when Lisa completely lost it. The second I mentioned checking her phone, Lisa's entire body stiffened. She clutched it tighter, her knuckles turning white. "Oh, so now you don't trust me?" she snapped, her voice rising. "This is ridiculous, Mark. I don't have to prove anything to you." Jason shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting to the door like he was debating making a run for it. That alone told me what I already knew. There was something on that phone. I stepped forward, my hand outstretched. "If you have nothing to hide, Lisa, give me your phone." She let out a bitter laugh. "You don't get to demand my phone like I'm some criminal. You're my husband, Mark, not my warden." I stayed silent, my eyes locked on hers. Then, in one quick motion, She tried to shove the phone into Jason's hands. But I was faster. I lunged, grabbing it before Jason could take it. Lisa screamed and tried to snatch it back, but I held it out of reach. "Mark, don't you dare," she shrieked. But I was done listening to her lies. With shaking hands, I unlocked the phone. Lisa tried to lunge at me, but I pushed her away, my heart pounding as I scrolled through her messages. And there it was. Everything. Text after text.
Videos.
Photos. Some taken in our own bedroom. Some in the bathroom. I felt my stomach drop. My head spun. Lisa must have seen the change in my face because suddenly, her tone shifted. "Mark, listen. It's not what it looks like, I swear." I held up the phone, showing her one of the messages. It was from Jason. "Last night. Can't stop thinking about earlier. You looked so good on your knees for me." I almost dropped the phone. Lisa gasped, as if she was just now realizing how bad it was. Jason went pale. Everything inside me shattered. Lisa opened her mouth to speak, but I didn't want to hear another word. I turned on my heel and walked straight toward the door. Lisa ran after me, grabbing my arm before I could reach the door. "Mark, please. You're blowing this out of proportion." I yanked my arm away so hard she almost stumbled. Blowing this out of proportion? My wife, my own wife, had been messing around with the kid I raised like a son, and she still had the audacity to downplay it? Jason was standing in the hallway now, his face unreadable, like he was waiting to see how this would all play out. I turned to him, the rage boiling in my chest nearly unbearable. "You. Say something." My voice was low, controlled, dangerous. Jason swallowed hard, looking at Lisa like he was hoping she'd jump in to save him. But for once, she was speechless. "I never meant for this to happen," he finally muttered. I let out a bitter laugh. "You never meant for this to happen?" I repeated, my hands clenching into fists. "You were sleeping with my wife, in my house, while I was at work busting my ass to provide for you both. And you never meant for this to happen." Jason had the nerve to look ashamed, as if that changed anything. Lisa, meanwhile, had completely switched tactics. Her face crumpled, her voice softening. "Mark, listen to me," she whispered, stepping closer. "I was lonely. I was vulnerable. And Jason, he was just there. I made a mistake, but it didn't mean anything." I turned to her, disgust curling in my stomach. "It didn't mean anything? Then why do I have months' worth of texts that say otherwise?" She flinched, caught. For the first time in our entire marriage, she had no lie to fall back on. I shook my head, my jaw tight. "I need to get out of here." Lisa panicked.
No.
"We can talk about this. We can fix this, Mark." But I was already walking out the door, because if I stayed a second longer, I didn't trust myself not to do something I'd regret. I drove aimlessly for hours. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. My mind kept replaying what I had just seen, what I had just read. Lisa's giggles, Jason's silence, the texts, the betrayal. I finally pulled into an empty parking lot and just sat there. My whole body felt heavy, like I'd been drained of everything. How could they do this to me? I had raised Jason since he was a kid. I was the one who stayed up with him when he was sick, the one who helped him with his homework, taught him how to drive. I was the one who took care of him when his real father wanted nothing to do with him. And Lisa? I had given her everything. I had loved her even when she made it difficult. I had stayed faithful through every fight, every tantrum, every time she tried to twist things to make me feel like the bad guy. And this was how she repaid me? I pulled out my phone. There were already dozens of missed calls and texts from Lisa. "Lisa, Mark, please come home. We need to talk." "Lisa, you're being dramatic. It wasn't that serious." "Lisa, I'm so sorry. I love you. Don't throw everything away over this. Over this. Like it was some stupid little mistake." I scrolled down. Jason had sent one message. Just one. "Jason, I'm sorry. That was it.
No explanation. No begging.
Just sorry." I turned off my phone. I couldn't deal with this right now. But one thing was clear. I wasn't going back home tonight. I spent the night at a cheap motel, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together. The texts, Lisa's fake tears, Jason's guilty face. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I wasn't just going to take Lisa's word for anything anymore. I needed proof. I needed to know just how deep this betrayal went. First, I went through our phone records. Lisa thought she was slick, deleting messages, but she couldn't erase the records. Hundreds of calls and texts between her and Jason, some late at night when I was asleep next to her. Then, I checked our home security system. Lisa must have forgotten that I had access to the camera history. Most of them were in common areas, but the one in the living room showed way too much. Jason sneaking into our bedroom when I wasn't home. Lisa adjusting her clothes when she thought no one was looking. Them kissing in my house. My hands shook as I watched. They didn't even try to hide it. I felt like an idiot. A blind, pathetic idiot. Then I remembered something. Our neighbor, Tom. Tom was retired, always home and always outside. If anyone had seen something, it was him. I drove over to his house, knocked on the door, and when he saw my face, he frowned. "Mark? You okay?" "Tom." My voice was hoarse. "Did you ever see anything weird between Lisa and Jason?" Tom's expression shifted, like he'd been waiting for this moment. "Come inside, son," he sighed. "We need to talk." I stepped into Tom's house, my heart pounding. He gestured for me to sit, but I couldn't. I needed answers. Tom let out a deep sigh and rubbed the back of his neck. "Mark, I wasn't sure if I should ever say anything, but I've seen things. And now that you're asking, I can't lie to you." My stomach dropped. "What things?" My voice was barely above a whisper. Tom hesitated. Then he spoke. "I've seen Jason sneaking into your house during the day when you were at work. A couple of times. Lisa came outside to check if the coast was clear before letting him in. I even caught them once, real close on the back porch. Too close. I thought maybe I was imagining things. But after that, I started paying more attention. I felt sick." "How long?" I asked. Tom sighed again. "Months. Maybe longer." I didn't want to believe it, Mark. I figured maybe I was misreading things. But deep down, I knew. I just didn't want to be the one to tell you. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. So it wasn't just a recent mistake. This had been going on for months, right under my nose. Tom gave me a sympathetic look. "I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry, son." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Thanks for telling me now." I turned to leave, my mind racing. I knew what I had to do next. This marriage was over. I drove home, but not to talk. Not to forgive. I went back to get my things and to tell Lisa exactly what was coming next. When I walked in, she was sitting on the couch, eyes red and puffy from crying. Jason was nowhere in sight, probably hiding like the coward he was. Lisa jumped up the second she saw me. "Mark, thank God. Let's talk, please. We can fix this." I held up a hand, stopping her. "We're done, Lisa." My voice was flat, emotionless. I was done feeling anything for her. Her face twisted, first into shock, then into anger. "You're really going to throw away our marriage over this?" I laughed. An ugly, bitter laugh. "Throw it away? You burned it to the ground, Lisa. And I have the proof to make sure I never have to see your face again." Her eyes darted to my phone. You wouldn't." "Oh, I would." I pulled a folder from my jacket and tossed it onto the coffee table. "That's my lawyer's information. You're about to be served divorce papers. You and Jason can do whatever the hell you want now. I don't care." Lisa's eyes widened. "Wait, Mark. Let's think about this. I made a mistake. It didn't mean anything." I shook my head. "It meant everything." She tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. "Don't touch me." For the first time, she looked truly scared, like she was realizing she had really, truly lost me. I grabbed my bag, the one I had packed at the motel, and turned toward the door. I wasn't coming back. "Mark, please," she whispered one last time. I didn't even look at her when I said it. "Goodbye, Lisa." And with that, I walked away. Final thoughts. It's been a few months now. The divorce is in process. I blocked Lisa and Jason from everything. I moved out, got my own place, and I'm finally starting to feel like myself again. It still hurts. Some nights, I lie awake, wondering how I missed the signs, how I trusted someone who never deserved it. But I'm healing. And if I've learned anything from this, it's this. If someone shows you who they are, believe them, and never ignore your gut, because in the end, the truth always comes out. Thank you for staying with me. This crazy journey is finally over and I'm ready for what's next. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more interesting stories. And leave a comment with what you would do in this situation. See you in the next videos.